Hi, another film I watched this week was Yangtse Incident, the story of HMS Amethyst. It's a strange story rooted in reality of 1949, when HMS Amethyst, a ship of the Royal Navy, was to sail from Shanghai up the Yangtze River to Nanking during the middle of the Chinese Civil War. It was due to deliver supplies for the British diplomatic staff and British residents in the then Chinese capital. But the ship came under fire on the way from the Chinese Communist Army and found itself running aground and trapped between two Chinese Communist held crossings. As a result, the ship was trapped in the river for months at a time, with the wounded having been ferried to safe harbour and the remaining complement on the ship having to subsist and try and negotiate their way out of trouble. It's, as I say, a strange story. It's not a British story of wartime because the British weren't actually involved in the Chinese Civil War directly. But the communist forces, as depicted in the film, are trying to claim that it was an act of British aggression rather than them having been fired on unprovoked. It's a story of traditional British pluck and courage under fire, with the various ranks coming together to try and outlast the communists, keeping them captive. And they stayed there for months at a time, eventually managing to mount a audacious escape under cover of night and making it back safely. Ultimately, although a large number of people were killed in the attack, including the ship's original captain, the remaining complement made it out largely unharmed. And even the ship's cat was highly commended for his courage under the circumstances. The film is directed by Michael Anderson, who would go on to direct the Best Picture winning Around the World in 80 Days, and later in his career, Logan's Run, Orca, and Millennium. And it has an impressive cast: Richard Todd in the lead role, William Hartnell further down, even Bernard Cribbins appears in his first film role. Overall, it's a very entertaining, engaging film. There's an odd sense of pace to it, though. I found that the film dragged a little, and I couldn't really tell how much of the film was left at any time because it never felt like it was building to a climax. This is, I think, a function of the story it was telling. But the lack of pacing made it feel rather more sluggish than it should. But overall, it's an interesting story and it's well told. I suspect that there is a certain bias in the telling, but with that in mind, it's still enjoyable stuff.